Good morning and welcome to this session on constituent experience. I just want to make one change before we get started today because I believe the topic of experience is so overused in our industry. It's somewhat lost its impact. So instead, I would like to revise my title to Constituent Relationships Are King. But don't worry, we are still very much going to talk about the E word. But we will just be a little more aware of the broader aims of why we strive for a great experience. For those of you who have not seen my intro video on this session, I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce myself and welcome you to this virtual presentation. My name is Chris Lowe, I'm a digital engagement consultant here at Salesforce, and it's my pleasure today to show you some of the twists and turns we all have to navigate through to connect with our constituents, build a solid relationship to earn the right to ask for support, with the ultimate aim of creating a truly lifelong donor and supporter who feel personally attached to our organisation. Which brings me on to my first slide. Long-lasting relationships are forged from great experiences. Expectations of our constituents have never been so high. They are surrounded by every type of service and product company who are all competing for their time and share of wallet. You have heard this many times before. Our supporters and members demand that we know them and make their life easier, whilst we try to get across, in a compelling way, the reason they should trust us and believe in us to make a difference in the world. And who is in charge of this seemingly impossible task? Well, the default answer is everyone in your business. We all know that isn't the real answer. A recent survey from Salesforce told us that 79% of marketing professionals say they are responsible for the customer experience. And to be honest, that makes a lot of sense, because marketing own a lot of interactions between your organisation and your constituents. Now let's start at the beginning of the relationship with your constituents. You would have heard this stage of the life cycle called awareness and acquisition, but I'm calling it something a little more personal, creating a connection, because that is what we must do. And herein lies our first challenge of a great experience. Every organisation wants to grow, but organic growth is rarely enough to power the demands of your mission. We need to make new connections. And we start where most organisations do, and that's on social media. Organic content, maybe shared by our most engaged supporters, could create some of those new connections we need. It's always the case with non-profits that our messaging is our best asset here, but it does need to work harder for us. So to really amplify the reach, we turn to paid advertising, because why not? Platforms such as Facebook and Google have such rich data we can get to who we want with relatively minimal effort. And by promoting content, we connect with these new audiences and drive them to our website, which is the epicenter of our brand messaging and start of the core supporter experience. Now in our example, this prospective donor is browsing your website anonymously. And because they're unknown, the experience feels kind of static and vanilla. So what we're actually seeing here is a lot of clicking around as she learns a little bit more about us. But that's okay, because every click tells us something new. We give her a unique ID so that we can track her behaviour and build up an understanding of her needs and personalise the channel to adapt in real time. And the reason we do this is that we want to engage in a meaningful way in her moment of need. Now the use cases for real-time interactions like this are endless. Netflix, Amazon, Spotify learn from your behaviour and adjust the experience to help guide you. They try very successfully to guide your future actions, and this is what we intend to do here. But we can't really make decisions about what to do next without some sort of goal. Our goal in this experience is to convert this unknown person. Everything we know so far suggests this person is interested in us, so we make a real-time decision to change the website banner to a primary call to action for our unknown visitors. In order for us to deliver a great experience, and the reason we do this is that in order to deliver a great experience, we need to start providing more personal channels of engagement. And email is really the gateway to extending this relationship beyond a single channel. And most importantly, converting this person from unknown to a known supporter. I'd just like to jump out of this story to talk to you briefly about real time and where this could sit in your engagement strategy. As I said in the opening of this session, our constituents expect to know them. And interacting in real time helps us think and act in the moment. It's a much more natural response to the immediate behaviours of our constituents. It's no different from you and your friend having a coffee and a conversation. There is no script, but you just respond to one another's questions. If we put this in the perspective of making a connection, I want the visitor to my website to start the conversation, and the organisation must be prepared with the most appropriate response. This is how I think about real-time. But I would suggest that real-time isn't the only tool in your toolbox to handle constituents' wants and needs. We also have the concept of journeys. Now, if real-time was an unscripted conversation with a friend, a journey would be like a predetermined theatre script, but allowing the actor to exercise some creative license to personalise that role. Journeys help us reach a specific goal by orchestrating robust experiences across one or more channels. But the important point here is to use them appropriately. For me, a successful journey is one that clearly lays out the goals, is flexible to react to change, but automates a common set of actions within an experience. Let's take a look at how a journey in our story is used to deliver the next stage of our constituents' experience. And some organisations forget that their mission started before their constituents' relationship did, meaning that the connection you have with a donor or supporter would most likely be short-lived if they're not brought up to speed with what you do. Now that we have this known contact and a means of engaging with her that isn't just the website, this is where we need to spend some time nurturing her before we ask for anything. And this can be premeditated because we know our mission better than anyone else. We know the script. It's a perfect scenario for a journey because we want to onboard our supporter in a consistent way so that our relationship starts off on the right foot. This is what we call building the relationship. And our goal here is really to get to know one another. We want to learn what they want, and in return we will share how we will meet that expectation. And the way we do this is by extending a journey. In this particular journey, I want to make sure I give my constituent control over the way they consume information from my organisation. And the way I do this is by extending an email which gives them the opportunity to provide their interests and opt in other areas of the business. Up until now, we've done a lot of guesswork, which has helped us guide this supporter. But nothing is better than asking your supporter to declare their interests. In this example, we're giving her a frictionless experience and giving her the control. It's such a simple tactic, but really does demonstrate what type of organisation we are: transparent and trustworthy. But how is this information going to drive the rest of the journey? Well, let me show you. I've seen a lot of organisations deliver quite a generic experience when it comes to welcome communications. And that's fine to do so as an initial response. But remember, our constituents expect us to know them, even at this early stage. And given we now have their personal preferences, we must act on that. So if a supporter is interested in training and mentor programs, then we should be tailoring the content to focus on these elements as our primary messaging. So if we take that generic email here and we apply a little bit of artificial intelligence, we can scale the kind of personalization that provides true one-to-one engagement. So in this example specifically, our AI is choosing an appropriate image that matches her preferences, a call to action that may make more sense to her, and even recommending some secondary content that she may be interested in based on her interests. What a great way to get someone engaged with your organization. I just want to pause for one moment to focus on AI, because you will see a few instances of it appearing in this experience. Our latest research shows that there is a huge increase in the application of AI, specifically for marketing in the last 2 years alone. It's true the technology is becoming standardized, but I think it's equally fair to say that organizations are beginning to trust AI to do some of the tasks that were originally reserved for your data scientists, analysts, or technical marketers. But where in our great experience does AI fit? Some of the most common use cases are shown in this table. But specifically in our story, the organization is using AI to help choose the best channel, detect whether someone is oversaturated with communications, and even select the content for us. It could be a donation, a call to action, a news article, or just a feel-good story to keep them interested. I truly believe AI is going to continue to help us deliver a better experience, and it's something that you should consider in your future strategy. Continuing on in the story, we now have onboarded our prospect donor, and we now should have a mutual understanding as to what each other wants. This is where the hard work pays off as we continue on to the next stage, and this is where we ask for our supporters to actively support us. In this example, the fundraising team is going to run a targeted campaign for a specific program on mentoring. Their goal is obvious: get someone to donate. So having gone to the effort of creating a connection and building a relationship, we can rely on this data to help us better target our supporters. Now, I cannot stress the importance of good segmentation. The effectiveness of our fundraising campaigns is impacted by many things, but something we should be able to control is our known supporters' propensity to make a donation. This data should form the basis to help us control who we ask and how many times we ask. The next stage is actually building a multi-channel campaign. Notice I say multi-channel because this is where our constituents are. Blended campaigns, which are, in other words, more than one channel, are much more likely to reach your constituents and gain traction. So in this example, we may extend a Facebook ad directly in the feed of this individual supporter. We may extend a personalised email where one of our tactics is to take any previous donations and change the amount that we're wanting to ask for based on that data. And then, of course, this would be a pointless activity if we couldn't actually take the donation. An important note about this is the continuity across all of these channels is really important. If you are going out and creating a specific campaign, you want all of these different channels to act and look and feel like one consistent experience that this supporter can recognize. And when we get to the act of making a donation, we need to make this as frictionless as possible. In other words, how easy are you making it for your supporter to make a donation? Are you providing a choice of payment methods? In our story, we're offering Apple Pay. Can your existing donors make a donation in just one click? I'm sure some of you have abandoned an online purchase because the checkout process was just too long-winded. And an essential part of this process is being able to reconcile this donation with the originating campaign and program. Some of the most common requirements I see is to do with impact reporting. Constituents want transparency and to feel like they are part of your mission. But an annual report isn't quite going to live up to their expectations. But in order to do that, you need the data before you can even consider sharing it. In our story, we have not only been able to connect all of our marketing efforts to the campaign to track engagement, but we've been able to connect that campaign, including those donations, right back to the associated program. Imagine that. I can now report on how all of my supporters are driving my mission. And the best thing about this is I can use this data to share how my supporters are making a personal impact and complete that feedback loop. And this is the type of real-time, digitally first experience that brings a constituent much closer to the organisation to embark on the next stage, which we're about to discuss shortly. But before I do, I really want to focus on that big issue of reporting. As I alluded to a few minutes ago, not tracking performance of your fundraising campaigns and not providing the type of impact reporting your constituents need can cause a breakdown in relationship and trust. Here are a few statistics from our recent non-profit trends report. Specifically looking at the UK, although this is a global survey, you'll see a few things. From a measurement perspective, only 47% are measuring their marketing goals, and the stats get lower when it comes to donor acquisition and conversion. And demand for transparency is going up. Yet 83% say it's hard to understand if their programs are effective, and therefore they're not able to actually relay that information to their supporters. The reason I wanted to share these stats is really to say that there is definitely some room for improvement, and tying all of this data together is something that we can do today. For me, not understanding what works leads to wasted time, frustrated supporters, and ultimately a lack of impact. If we imagine for one moment that we're joining up our programs with the experience, we really can start to create this transparency and feedback loop. For example, some organisations are thinking about real-time reporting using public dashboards to share impact. They satisfied the curiosity of some of those supporters by giving them insights into the business. They become closer by proxy. Now, this is where our story gets interesting. And a constituent can be actively supporting you. They're perhaps a regular donor with reasonable engagement. But is that all they can be? Well, no. Constituents want to be more involved. And this is the stage I want to call personally invested. Usually we talk about advocacy at this stage of the life cycle, but I see this as so much more for organisations. To be personally invested means you feel accountable, and this is the most important point to create a lifelong supporter. Whether it's hosting a fundraiser, running a marathon, or volunteering. Our goal here is to get the already valued donor to give us something arguably more valuable than their money, and that's their time and their skills. And the way we might do this is by making recommendations on the next best actions. In our story, we might want to get this supporter to consider mentoring herself. And the way that we might want to do that is to take her on a pre-authored journey to really drive her to join the mentoring community so that she can engage with like-minded supporters and start to feel personally invested. And the final goal of this journey may be to get her to sign up to this program in which we can directly relate her actions back to that central view and then feed into those results. But here's the kicker. What we are creating here are super supporters. They are the best of the best. So a great strategy is to grow new connections by using this perfect mold to find people that look similar out there in social media and beyond. So we're taking an existing supporter and using that as a model to gain new ones. Now, I've shown you a series of moments in time taken from a wide variety of customers I've had the fortune to have spoken to. And it really does show you the supporter's experience across the entire life cycle. One thing you hopefully noticed is that the experience comprised of a series of different tactics, whether that be premeditated journeys, working across multiple channels, personalisation, and goal setting. But at the heart of this really is the data and what you do with it. The advances in technology right now should make our capture, unification, interpretation and activation of that data much easier. But if we follow these basic principles of creating that connection, building a solid relationship, and then respecting that relationship by only asking for support when appropriate to do so, and finally ending by promoting a personal investment, the experience can truly lead to a lifelong relationship powered by a great experience. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for spending the last 20 minutes with me this morning. I sincerely hope you found the content useful, and the team here at salesforce.org will look forward to speaking to you. Thank you.